We're talking Angel Reese today. Welcome back to Fire Footwear, everyone. As always, I am your host, Matt Frates. I hope that this finds you well. I really hope that you enjoyed last week's episode. It was a deviation, but I honestly needed to get that off my chest. I wanted to sort of reintroduce myself to all of you who have picked this podcast up over the last couple of years, and even somebody who maybe has forgotten it. I wanted you to hear a little bit. And honestly, I was really happy that so many people reached out to say, hey, I learned something. I really appreciated that, because I think one thing that we forget about in this world is a lot of us, we go through a lot of the same shit. We have a lot in common in terms of our life experiences, things we've gone through. And sometimes we just need that voice that can commiserate with us, or you feel like gets you. And hopefully last week did that. Lately, we've been talking a lot about sneaker moments, and we've been talking a lot about some unsavory headlines in the news as it relates to the sneaker culture here. But I wanted to talk about basketball shoes. Most specifically, I want to talk about the WNBA. So the WNBA over the last few years, at least by my eye, has had somewhat of an uptick in its viewership. And I would say also an uptick in the stories about it, the media coverage with it. And a lot of that has to do with mostly one player, and I think that is Caitlin Clark. Now, I don't say that to be polarizing. Hear me out. So the WNBA, I think, for the long haul, has had its audience, and it has been mostly a niche audience. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. There hasn't really been anything overt that has brought people to the yard. Caitlin Clark and her ascension through college at Iowa, and the perception that she has sort of changed the game and is a generational talent, has brought people to watching this product. Caitlin Clark is certainly a very talented basketball player and certainly has a high level of skill. And since she has been in the WNBA, has been a lightning rod for media stories and other types of coverage. One thing that generally tends to happen whenever a player of this caliber and magnitude hits the scene, the media generally tends to gravitate toward them, and sponsorships and companies also gravitate toward them. Caitlin Clark, no matter how you feel about her play, no matter how you feel about her personality, she moves the needle. And companies like Nike and Adidas and Reebok, they're all looking for athletes and people who move the needle. At the end of the day, each of these companies wants people who move the needle because they want to move product. They want eyeballs on their product, they want dollars in their pockets, and that's how it works. Caitlin Clark is perceived as a needle mover. People talk about her, the media covers her. No matter what she does or doesn't do, the media is covering her, social media is buzzing about her, and people are talking about her. In the sneaker world specifically, I think what generally tends to happen with people like Caitlin Clark or athletes like her is these companies want them to have their own shoe line. Eventually. It doesn't just happen overnight, but that's the eventual goal. And I think for Caitlin Clark, that is the eventual goal. But so far, no matter how polarizing she is, and no matter how much merchandise she might move for the WNBA, she hasn't had a signature shoe. One thing that Caitlin Clark does have going for her is that she is associated to this point with wearing Kobe's. Kobe's right now are one of the most popular shoes because they sell out, and also because they are tied to a legacy in Kobe Bryant, who is no longer with us. One thing that Caitlin Clark and, say, a Kobe Bryant have in common, and what a lot of up-and-coming generational talents have, is a comparison and a tie to another player like them. Many times, their narrative is connected to another player, and it takes them to do their own thing and achieve their own goals to kind of separate themselves from this narrative. Caitlin Clark has a narrative that is tied to Kobe's in sneakers because she has always worn Kobe's. This Kobe, in my opinion, was done pretty well. The colorway was Indiana Fever inspired, and it was obviously made with Caitlin Clark in mind. Her name was on it. It was a PE for her, a player edition shoe. It was not a signature model, a player edition shoe. It sold out. A lot of people are saying, oh, of course it sold out because Caitlin Clark is great. It sold out because it was a Kobe. and it sold out because that Kobe model is something that sells. Unfortunately for Caitlin Clark, she has not yet reached the point where she has her own signature shoe. Let's take another player that I mentioned at the top, and that's Angel Reese. Angel Reese has a story arc that 100% is tied to Caitlin Clark, fairly or unfairly. Angel Reese is an accomplished basketball player in her own right. She is a national champion at LSU. That is something that Caitlin Clark cannot say. So far throughout their entire careers together, from that national championship game on, every time they take the court together, they are tied together. And most of the time there is some kind of an incident, and most of the time the media is picking it up immediately, and almost 100% of the time it is being overblown to something that it is not. Angel Reese, almost at every turn, every press conference, is answering questions about Caitlin Clark. And in a lot of ways, it feels as if her career arc, her story in the WNBA and as a basketball player will forever be tied to Caitlin Clark. I don't think that that's fair. I certainly understand the frustration that Angel Reese has in terms of that, because she is accomplishing her own goals and her own accolades on the basketball court. A lot of people find Angel Reese to be polarizing because they feel a certain way about Caitlin Clark. They actually don't necessarily feel a way about Angel Reese that isn't directly tied to an emotional attachment they have to Caitlin Clark. And I'll give you an example. I won't out this person, but somebody in my family, not my immediate family, but my extended family, said that Angel Reese just doesn't like Caitlin Clark because she's jealous. Think about that language, that Angel Reese. They don't know Angel Reese. None of us really know Angel Reese. We don't know Caitlin Clark either. But to keep it back in sneakers, Angel Reese has done something that Caitlin Clark has not. She now has her own signature shoe with Reebok. I think a year, maybe a year and a half ago, I did an episode about Shaq and Allen Iverson now being part of Reebok and having real decision-making ability with Reebok. And I said that both of those guys have the pull, have the recognizability to be able to get Reebok to a place that they haven't been for a very long time. Can they make the brand what it was in its heyday? No, they can't do that. I don't think Reebok will ever be at that level again. But one thing that Shaq has talked about in trying to revive Reebok as a main player in sneaker culture is getting the names there. And so they signed Angel Reese to a deal and have now unveiled her first signature sneaker. To me, this is a huge coup for Angel Reese because it's something that she has that is not tied to Caitlin Clark. It's something that Caitlin Clark does not have. I like that. And again, this is not necessarily an episode about Caitlin versus Angel Reese, but I use Caitlin Clark as a backdrop for why this is important for Angel Reese. Now I want to shift to what that shoe actually looks like. When I saw the pictures and the promotional materials, first of all, I feel like the ads for them with Angel Reese were straight fire. I thought they were done very, very well, executed very, very well. Unfortunately, the one thing that I didn't notice in that ad was the shoe itself. I thought the presentation of Angel Reese and everything was very fire. To me, the shoe was secondary. The shoe, to me, looks very much like every other signature model that has come out for just about any new player up and coming. Very rarely do I feel like signature models do what the Jordan 1 did and make people reimagine what shoes on the court looked like. At that time period, the athletes didn't make the shoes, the athletes were put in the shoes. And then Michael Jordan came about and things changed forever. Now these signature models are made with the player directly in mind. That is a huge shift. Angel Reese is a player that has, to me, a lot of personality, much like Ja Morant. Whether you like her or not, there is personality there. She does have something to say. She does have a personality that projects on and off the court. In making a signature model, don't you think the goal should be that it should match that energy? This initial colorway, similar to the initial colorway of the Jordan 40, was underwhelming. And it's underwhelming because it doesn't seem like it fits who Angel Reese is. Maybe that's unfair because we haven't seen the potential that that particular silhouette can have. But in terms of the marketing, in terms of the breakout debut colorway of this particular shoe, I felt like it fell flat in my opinion. Now, a year from now, when we've seen some other colorways, I may feel differently. I thought Asia Wilson, the A1, looked a lot better. I thought it actually popped a little bit more. Yes, the silhouette maybe looked a little bit like a lot of shoes we've seen, but the colorway, that to me matters. Chris from Wear Tester says that a lot. The colorways can make or break a shoe. But I ask you now about basketball shoes in general. I feel like we've gotten to a point where signature models now that are tied to these players, whether it's in the NBA or the WNBA, don't have as much personality anymore. That these designers, these companies are having a very difficult time letting these players actually dictate what a shoe should look like. You have designers who are trying to capture what they think is the essence of a player because, in my opinion, that shoe should be the embodiment of the player. You should be putting on a shoe that you feel like represents that player. When you look at all of the Jordans that come out, especially when he was on the court, a vast majority of them captured what Michael Jordan was all about. If you look at the details, if you look at why they did certain things, it mattered to Michael, and that's why they did them. Starting with the Jordan 3, which had the Jordan logo on it, that was a big deal. They had also solicited feedback from Michael Jordan specifically. Tinker Hatfield did that in a way that was perfect, especially since they needed Michael to stay. And I look at basketball shoes now, and I feel like when I watch players on the court, the shoes that stand out the most are Kobe's or some other shoe that is being worn by another player. When you see players wearing Hardens, I think I just saw that in the NBA Finals, that Hardens were the most worn model throughout either the Finals or the NBA playoffs. And it's like, what? James Harden is near the end of his career. That shoe, that line has been out for a while. And now you have new models that are coming out that are tied to new up-and-coming players like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I happen to think that his signature model does look different than others, but it doesn't look that different. The Anthony Edwards 1, the AE1, that took everybody by storm because it looked so different, it was so recognizable, but yet even still, I don't see people wearing that on the court. And it begs the question now, especially with somebody like Angel Reese, who now has this milestone that Caitlin Clark does not have, but that shoe just looks like another basketball shoe. Much like in the movies where I feel like we're doing retreads of everything from 30 or 40 years ago, has Nike, has Reebok, has Adidas, have they lost their ability to truly make a standout signature shoe? I think we have to question that now. Angel Reese in this shoe, I'm glad that she has it. I'm sure that it's going to be great for her personal brand. And who knows, a year from now, we might see some amazing colorways and you might feel a little bit different about it. I'm happy for her in the sense that she now has something that is not tied to Caitlin Clark. And I think that Shaq and company did a great job by getting to market first with a signature model before Caitlin had her own. Caitlin may not get her own for a while. They're going to sell Kobe's that are inspired by her, and they're always going to sell, and Nike's going to go down that route because they want to make money. They're established. Reebok doesn't have that standing. Yes, they have nostalgia in certain ways, but they're trying to reestablish themselves now in today's world with today's athletes. That's what Shaq and AI are trying to do. And getting to market with a brand new shoe behind what I feel like right now is probably their best athlete, that's a good thing. So no matter how you feel about Angel Reese or Caitlin Clark or any of these other athletes that are getting signature models, but I want to know from you, do you care? Because if you're not hooping in them, does it really matter? Are you ever going to wear a shoe like that out in public anyway? Are we going to style fits around it? Do you think it has to actually pop for anything but the court? Is it just performance? There's so many layers to this that I'm very curious about. Reach out to me on Instagram and TikTok at Fire Footwear Pod. I'd love to see you as a part of the Instagram chat. YouTube, Fire Footwear Sneaker Talk. Go there, like, subscribe, all that stuff. I've been putting out a lot of video content lately that I'm very happy with. And those of you listening right now, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. Please give a rating. Please give a review. I don't care what it says. I just would love to hear from you because I like that connection and I like to know what you like and don't like. Hope this finds everybody well, fam. I hope this finds everybody safe. And I'll talk to you next time. This is Fire Footwear.